Joining us today is Ranjit Rajan. He's the author of Digital Nation, How the UAE is Building a Future Based on Tech Innovation. He's also a tech consultant and senior executive at the International Data Corporation, a global tech analysis firm. Talk to us about your book, Digital Nation. What did you document in this book?
Yeah, so the book Digital Nation is a book that's been authored by myself and Dr. Saeed Dahiri. And the objective behind or the rationale for writing this book was that till that time, till we started writing this book about 2 years ago, there was no book that documented the digital transformation journey of the UAE. So you would read, you would come across a number of articles, presentations, press releases, etc., of the various digital transformation initiatives of the UAE. But there was no book that researched the transformation journey till then. So what we did was that we based our work on interviews with the top leaders of the UAE, so including the top executives of various private and public sector organizations within the UAE and also within the government. Those executives and those leaders who are driving the transformation of the UAE as a nation. And so we then gathered their insight. We were very interested to know their thinking. The UAE has always been striving to place itself at the top of the ladder in terms of digital economies around the world. And we've come across so many different announcements and strategies and plans. This was the opportunity for us to kind of bring all that together, consolidate all of that, understand the kind of foundations for that thinking, and then also look ahead and extrapolate and kind of forecast and the future, so to say, and provide the reader a view of what the digital future of the UAE could be.
Could you tell us more about what technologies the UAE harnessed as part of this digital transformation?
Yeah, so the UAE has been at the forefront of harnessing all the latest emerging disruptive technologies. So if you currently the global economy is being disrupted by technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, by technologies such as blockchain, the Internet of Things, the various types of advanced analytics, physical robots and drones, robotic process automation and software bots. All of these technologies are disrupting the global economy and leading to significant automation around the world. And the UAE has been at the forefront of harnessing these technologies. And the UAE has launched several strategies to harness these technologies. So right from the UAE Fourth Industrial Revolution strategy, wherein the UAE wants to be at the forefront of this Fourth Industrial Revolution, up to the UAE IoT strategy, the UAE AI strategy. UAE was one of the first countries in the world to have a ministry for AI and have a strategy for AI and have a minister for AI. So there's several emirates have also launched blockchain strategies. We have the autonomous vehicle strategy in some of the emirates. So the UAE has been at the forefront of kind of designing strategies around these new technologies and rolling activities around those strategies to improve not just the use of these technologies. It is often quite easy to buy technology and use the technology, but the UAE strategies have also looked at the development of these technologies and driving innovation around these technologies.
Could you talk about the relationship between this digital transformation and the country's development? What are the benefits of rapidly adopting this technology?
So, technology-led transformation has several benefits. Of course, it has benefits in terms of efficiencies for government and for businesses. So we're already seeing that in action. We are seeing, especially since the outbreak of COVID, we've seen that a large number of government and public services have shifted online as digital and contactless services. Access improves significantly with the use of technology. So you can access, more, people within the society can access these services using technology. The reach of these services also expands significantly with the use of technologies. So, for example, if you make those services available on a mobile app, you're able to make it available to a lot more people. So access and penetration of these services increases significantly with the use of technology. It also leads to efficiencies. So with the use of technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic automation, paperless strategies across several limits, they lead to a significant reduction in running costs for government as well as for businesses. So it leads to greater cost efficiencies. It also leads to significant enriching of customer experience. So, as we've seen, especially since the COVID outbreak, we've seen that there's been a surge in the use of e-commerce. So, the customer experience around e-commerce and mobile applications and all of that is becoming critically important. And you can leverage technology to create those new digital experiences. And so therefore, technology helps in all of these different ways, in terms of customer experience, in terms of efficiencies, in terms of access and penetration of services.
And can you talk to us about the possible negative effects or concerns about the rapid adoption of this technology?
Well, I think, technology, there are no real negatives per se. With technology use in that sense, the technology can be used for good or for evil, right? So it depends on how you use that technology. But having said that, what is happening with the expansion of digital transformation and with more and more physical services and interactions moving online and onto digital platforms is that the digital footprint continues to expand. So we have a lot more people accessing digital services, and the number of touch points or the number of digital touch points has increased significantly, and it continues to increase. The amount of data that is now passing through or flowing through digital platforms is growing at an unprecedented rate and will continue to grow. So a lot of the customer data, government data, business data, all of that is now flowing through digital platforms. Now, all of this means that we need to be able to secure these digital platforms and ensure that that data isn't compromised, isn't leaked. And so therefore, cybersecurity and resilience is absolutely critical. So, one needs to look at how these digital platforms and the data in particular is safeguarded against external adversaries. You also have to ensure that security is enforced so that you gain digital trust. So if as a user, as a citizen, as a resident, if I do not have trust in the digital, in the security of the data that I share with the various service providers, with the government, with business, etc., I will not use those services. So therefore, cybersecurity is absolutely critical. The privacy of my data is absolutely critical. And unless that is there, I will not have digital trust. So therefore, therefore ensuring cybersecurity, ensuring digital trust is absolutely critical for the digital economy to expand. So that's one key area that one needs to pay attention to, not just pay attention to, but never lose sight of. The other is, of course, technologies such as artificial intelligence. There are concerns about the bias that could emerge from using artificial intelligence, and so this is a concern that's there around the world, and most organizations, most governments who are using artificial intelligence now are ensuring that the data that's being used for artificial intelligence is not biased, is not prejudiced, is broad enough, and that the algorithms that are there within the AI applications are controllable. They can be governed. That there is transparency of that artificial intelligence application. So these elements, transparency, bias, etc., needs to be one needs to be very, very careful about. And several authorities in the UAE have been working on developing AI, ethical AI toolkits that will allow governments and businesses to develop AI applications in an ethical manner, so that an increasing number of citizens, residents, and businesses can start using AI in a safe manner.
So what is the end game here? Where do you see this digital transformation taking this country in the future?
So this is, of course, a kind of never-ending journey. The UAE is very clear that it wants to expand its economy towards digital, much more, quickly than others. It wants to make a mark in the world. The UAE leadership believes that by leveraging these disruptive technologies and harnessing technological disruption, it can create a mark for itself in the world. It can become much more competitive, and it's moving along that journey. So in 2019, the digital economy formed about 4.3% of GDP of the UAE, and the goal now is to double that percentage. So what we're going to see now is that there's an increasing shift towards the digital across all kinds of services, operations, etc., and interactions across different sectors, and that is going to increase the use of digital technologies. We will also see a lot of experimentation around these new technologies, be it AI or IoT or blockchain and others. There'll be lots of piloting of initiatives around these technologies, and also the development of skills. The further development of these technologies will require talent, will require skills. So the UAE is already embarking on a journey of education around these technologies. There are several courses being launched by various UAE universities around on AI and such areas. And so over time we will see that the UAE will look to build a significant pool of talent on AI and other such disruptive technology. And that will allow the UAE to become a creator of technology. Ultimately, what the UAE wants to do is to have a made in the UAE brand for technology-enabled products and intellectual property, so that the UAE is able to export technology-enabled products and services. And in order to do that, the UAE will need to build that pool of talent. It also needs to provide a platform for that talent to experiment, innovate, and develop. We already have a number of incubators and technology accelerators which encourage and incentivize startup organizations to develop new products and services leveraging these new technologies. So that is a key area to watch out for. Wherein I think over the next few years we will see a lot more, not just use of technology by governments and citizens and businesses, but also creation of products and services enabled by those technologies, and ultimately the export of those products and services beyond the UAE.
Thank you, Ranjit, for joining us and discussing in detail the UAE's digital transformation.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
This is Pulse 95.
Hadi Rajan.